back at claims that he stole 100K from his mother, Wendy Williams. How you doing? And this is according to the Sun. You know, they always got Wendy Williams tea. So the 22-year-old college student said that his use of Wendy's Amex card was first brought up as an issue in guardianship court after Wells Fargo petitioned to have the Guardian take over the TV staffer's affairs. In court, they brought up the American Express situation. They made this a much bigger issue. When she was here in Florida, the Amex card was our only source of paying for things, he claimed. Wells Fargo has frozen the 58-year-old star's accounts in January of 2022, among allegations that she was of unsound mind. The Amex was the only source of paying for things after that, especially when it came to doctor's appointments and private planes to get her to and from appointments in New York. I had to look for ways to transport her. If we had to get an appointment up there in New York, we would have to book a private plane. If we had to make a certain appointment down here, we had to book it on the Amex, Wendy's son explained. Kevin Jr. says that while his mother was in his care in Florida from late 2021 until the spring of 2022, he insisted her health improve before she returned to work. He claimed he believed that Wendy's manager at the time, Bernie Young, and her financial advisor for Wells Fargo wanted him to return the star to New York City to get her back to work. Kevin said of the advisor Bernie's insistence, Wendy returned to New York. They knew that in having her here in Florida, they were losing a lot of their earnings. Having her here in an environment where the number one priority isn't being at the Wendy Williams show or to be at certain appointments or whatever, they were more annoyed by the fact that they didn't have the control that they have had over her all these years from my perspective. Because when she's in New York, it's a lot easier to pull her around in certain places and have her isolated away from her family so that she doesn't have any other influences to make choices that are for her health and not for financial benefit. Wendy's only son also admitted that using the Star's American Express card was never an issue before the guardianship hearings, saying, quote, I have always used the Amex, always, before everything that happened. Ever since I was young, starting in the 6th grade, she always allowed me access to a credit card, whether it was for an emergency or because I wanted something. And what she would do was that she would read her credit card statement at the end of the month, and I never took advantage of it. It was never something that she would ever say it was inconvenient or anything like that. It was always something she wanted to do because she wanted me to enjoy certain access to things as her son. Kevin said of what was normal for him growing up in a wealthy household. He claimed that he believed once people in her orbit who were employed by Wendy saw how serious he was about her health, that is when issues rose about his involvement. Once everyone else got involved and saw who I am in all of this, and that I was very serious about keeping her in a state of healing, and that I wasn't going to take a certain amount of money to bring her back to New York, I said, listen, I appreciate that offer, but once I made that clear that I was very serious, then I became about certain evidence being brought against me, and transactions were brought against me to make it seem like I was taking advantage of her American Express account. The reality of the situation was that I had never had a reason to go behind her back to buy something that I would want. If anything, she'd offer to get things, and I would say, Mom, that's a lot. I don't post on Instagram. I don't care about those things. I don't care about being flashy. But when it came to the Amex, they were like, look how much he uses mom's Amex, and saying I was taking advantage of her and using it for my own interactions or intentions, sorry. And that was not the case. He also talked about, while the fact that while she was locked out of her Wells Fargo accounts and was in his care, he was also locked out of the accounts that were embarked for his college needs, saying that they have also locked me out of my school accounts. So anything that I would normally be able to pay for on my own through my school accounts, they had locked me out of. So we had to use the Amex to get through. When he was placed in guardianship at the Wells Fargo froze her bank accounts, as they suspected the star was a victim of financial exploitation, dementia, and undue influence. So Kevin went on to say, it's been really sad what's been allowed to happen. And ever since the court hearings ended, something just has to be brought to light about what's going on and how much people are taking in this situation. In terms of who is there now, people have put other things in front of her actually healing and getting better. And unfortunately, unlike many other alcoholics, she is worth a lot more money. He also hit out at Sabrina Morrissey, who was Wendy's guardian, and how she's handling his mother and her lack of communication with the star's family. And he said that he doesn't think Sabrina's doing a great job. And based on her actions, you have to assume that something is going on that she's not telling him. So they're really vague with updates. He's not knowing what's going on. I feel, for Lil Kev, because I know in so many ways he's been painted. They've painted him with this picture that he's taking advantage of his mother, that he's a user, and etc. And I've never really thought that was the case. I always wonder, like, what was his play in this whole situation. But someone who is in their early 20s, that's a lot of a burden to be putting on someone who is worth a lot of money. You have a lot of vultures and a lot of people who will take advantage of, the talent and milk them until they can no longer be milked. And we've seen this story play out so many times with other talents. And it's unfortunate this is what Wendy's dealing with. And she has like a lot of people surrounding her who don't have her best interest at heart. And when you're young and someone like her son, what can you do? Who can you trust? I mean, I don't know if a conservatorship would be a good idea, because we've seen on the strength of Britney how that turned out. So I don't know. It's just a sad thing that Lil Kev is dealing with. I know a lot of people, why is he talking to the media? Why is he talking to the press? Probably because he has no other outlet. Who else can he talk to? Who else can he get to be on his side? So sometimes I guess the only thing you can do, and I'm not saying it's the right thing, that you have to jump and speak to the media, the son, the go-to. Seems the whole family got the son on speed dial. So I don't know what he could do in this situation, because I've never been in this situation. If there's anybody out there who's watching this video and like if you're a lawyer or you're any kind of that world where you understand like what could someone do in that particular situation, a financial advisor, whatever the case is, how Lil Kev can help get his mother out of the situation, even if she's even aware of what she has. I don't know how she would even be able to get a hold of this situation, like paperwork, whatever the case is, if she could be of sound mind to sign off on stuff without alerting the people that Kevin says is bad news, like the Sabrinas and the Ricks, the Will Selbys, because the other Bernie ain't around no more. So now it's Will Selby and Sabrina, who's the guardian. Like, when you're trying to get around all these other people who he's saying is taking advantage of his mother, what could he possibly do to help her in this situation? Because she doesn't have control of her assets. She has somebody who does have control of her assets who's not being forthcoming with the child of the client, so that way he knows that you can't go to Big Cat because this greedy ass trying to get his hands on Wendy money. So I don't know. I don't have the answers, but hopefully those of you out there, because when I post this, later on all the other streaming platforms, the TikToks and the YouTubes and all, I mean, it's already on YouTube, but when I post the clips of it other places,